Today is your last day at work, and what if saying goodbye to your employer doesn't require you to say goodbye to your network? Folks impacted by layoffs and those who move on to new opportunities often instantly lose rapport with all their closest colleagues. Colleagues they fought with the trenches in for years, even decades. But why? Does it really need to be that way? What if we leverage client relationship management best practices from sales methodologies to build a thriving network beyond our strategic exit? So, hey, Pretentious Engineer here. I know you didn't ask, but I help engineers, global leaders, and entrepreneurs find their way. The journey of an engineer is often disorienting, undefined, and isolating. And I've made it my personal mission to provide greater clarity, a bounded career path, and community to folks like myself, hoping to secure their next best opportunity. After over a decade advancing surgical robotics, device innovation, and VR at Johnson & Johnson, I made a strategic exit to continue my family's journey in Japan. This was one of the most challenging decisions I've ever made in my life. Many folks get stuck in jobs that don't have their best interests in mind, and my flagship course, How to Say Goodbye, will empower you to craft your own strategic exit, targeting an opportunity at a 30% pay increase, living where you desire, and loving what you do. I genuinely believe this is possible for you, and my community on Skool is here to support you every step of the way. Many colleagues of mine struggled to discern how my wife and I were able to navigate various immigration, housing, financial, and employment risks during our strategic exit from Japan. So I decided to synthesize everything we've learned so you can progress out of that job that's killing you inside. And if I can do it, so can you. This course is broken into 3 major movements. The first of which, inertia, illuminates all the constraining forces that keep you in a job that doesn't have your best interests in mind, limiting your future possibilities. The second movement, impact, acknowledges an intentional choice to break through these inertial forces in pursuit of securing your next. The final movement, momentum, which we'll complete today, contains the secret sauce of how I exited J&J with my 2 greatest assets intact, my integrity and my network. I'm committed to helping you exit with both, so your reputation will prosper, leading to downstream opportunities. So, why should we leverage our exit for leads generation? Let's find out together. Ikimashou. Let's go. As a kid, one of my favorite things about visiting Chicago was all the big revolving doors. Life in the suburbs didn't really have a lot of them, and I loved running multiple laps through them with my sister. I still get a kick out of them today as an adult, except for those terrible electronic ones that are safer and move painfully slow. The peculiar thing about a revolving door is that you can enter on one side and exit on the other, but you can also take it all the way around and exit where you entered. If you plan your strategic exit well, it is possible to return to your prior employer in a higher paying position doing something you love down the road. At J&J, we had an expression, you're allowed to leave J&J once, implying that folks would leave, have a broadening experience, and then return, often in senior leadership positions. So today, I want to explore how I leverage sales best practices to build a custom, free CRM to track various network relationships that I want to nurture, trusting that a revolving door moment may occur, either with me back into J&J or some of them into my community on Skool. So 3 big things for today. First, I'll walk you through a 7-step process that will equip you to build a leads generation system and process prior to making your strategic exit. This will be new for a lot of you. Number 2, we'll work through the CRM that I built to manage my relationships with Johnson & Johnson colleagues, where I employed the 7 steps. Number 3, then we'll try it out in our praxis section, where you will build your own CRM from scratch so you're comfortable with the tool I use, which is Trello. Anyone can do this, and I'll break it down simply so you can exit with your network activated and primed to support you as you secure your next best opportunity. So let me grab my tablet and let's get to work. All right, so I got some standing and sitting ahead of us between jumping on the PC and chatting and writing. But what I really want to take note of before we even jump into this, when I exited Johnson & Johnson, I had 3 or 4 revolving door moments within a series of a couple months. Within a couple weeks, someone actually reached out immediately and said, "Hey, I'm surprised that J&J wasn't able to retain your talent. There could be a fit for you in Asia Pacific doing clinical trials management," which was super awesome and a huge compliment and kindness to get an interview right off the bat. But then beyond that, I had another individual who is a higher level director in the organization share all of his knowledge on financial acumen so that I'm better positioned to apply for global leadership roles in the director level at Abbott and AbbVie and other areas that I'm hunting. So that's number two. Number three, I had a lot of my core team that still met with me monthly, every other week sometimes, and they helped me shape my community on Skool. So figuring out my value prop or finding all my copy, like early enthusiasts for what I was trying to do. So that's number three, is like shaping what I was doing as a business. And then number four, some of them have actually joined my community on Skool, which is super cool. So there's a lot of opportunities that come when you can intentionally build and progress a relationship outside of your exit. And as we talked about in the last module of like, don't send the email to everyone where you CC everybody of like, it's been great, keep in touch, here's my LinkedIn. Like, that goes nowhere. The process I'm going to lay out allows you to drive the relationship forward versus passively saying, "Hey, find me on LinkedIn and keep in touch, and I hope you remember me." This process allows you to check and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" So a CRM, by the way, for all you non-acronym folk, just means Client Relationship Manager. There's lots of different software tools that you could pay for to manage a client, from where they might see a video on YouTube and then decide, "I want a product," and then you reach out to them and then you say, "Hey, would it be a good time to have a call?" And then you sell them or make them an offer, and then they say yes, and then you track with them like 6 months later, see if they like the service, do they want to buy something else. Like, CRMs exist to kind of progress a business from a client perspective and continue to engage them. Lots of businesses have CRMs. We're going to make one for free, which is super cool because I'm an engineer and I figured it out. So let's jump into the 7 steps of leads generation. And a lead is just someone who has the potential to become a client that will pay you for something cool, or a member of your network that can open doors for you down the road, is how we'll frame it for a strategic exit. I was double checking that I'm recording. Okay, so the first one is to recognize the revolving door. It is important for you to remember before you leave people, particularly leaders that have been around, that worked at the company, left, and came back. And to start to question the how in those spaces. How did this person come back? Were they always knocking on the door to get back into J&J? Or did someone in their network be like, "Hey, would you be open to like leading a project team? Since I've seen you're doing this thing over here and it's been 3 years since we worked together and it was cool." Like, there's a lot of shoulder taps that happen when people start building teams as they move up the technical ladder into the leadership ladder, and then they remember who was in the thick of it with them. A lot of times they headhunt people back into their teams that they trust and enjoyed working with. So you have to recognize that these factors exist. Even in very large organizations, certain people will stay in a subset of that for a long time. So if they can weather layoffs and organizational restructures, they're a huge asset downstream. So these factors exist. And as you get higher up the leadership tower, shoulder tap and who you know becomes more and more of a thing, even though we like to think that interviews are unbiased. A lot of times it's through connection. That's why a lot of companies offer bonuses if you refer someone in that actually gets the job, because there's an additional layer of vetting and knowing that has occurred first. All right, number 2. So this is going to our email follow-ups. Deliver on, by the way, I'm parenting off to the side. Deliver on, if you hear any like ruffling, it's my son Akio. Deliver on expectations. So in the 8th module, you want me to pick you up, buddy? I think he's okay. We'll see if he gets too grumpy. In the 8th module, we talked about how to like send a very personalized exit email that provides value, where you kind of hint at like what your next will be, and you'd love to share some learnings from your job before you left, and then you'd love to glean some wisdom. So one of the first things to consider is you asked someone for their time. Let me pick you up. but we're gonna drop the bags because those are gonna be too loud. We're not an ASMR channel. So you're gonna this is Akio. You know who Akio is. But he's almost a year, which is crazy because I exited like right after he was born. I went on parental leave, couldn't land a job in J&J and left. So like Akio is like my little time capsule to remember this season of life. It's wild. Um, what was I saying? Okay, so deliver on expectations. So they follow up and they're like, hey, yeah, I'd love to set up a call just to learn what you're doing next. And they give you 30 minutes or an hour of your time. You need to deliver on those expectations. Like, help give them some value, like some things you learned, like prepare a little bit, which we'll get to, and make sure that you don't waste their time so that they felt like they get something out of it so that they will want to connect again when you engage them downstream. Okay, let's see if I can write and hold a child. The next one. This is a meaty one. Build. Oh, geez, Akio. A system. Scared. For leads. All right. So we're going to do this in depth. I'm going to share the system I made. We'll screen share and walk through it in a bit. And then I'll teach you how to build your own, as we explain in the intro of the video. But it's really important that you actually have a system. If you don't have a system to know when to re-engage people and to track who those relationships are, you'll forget, they'll forget, and the revolving door has a lower and lower probability of occurring. If you're not checking in, connecting, crossing paths, even if it's quarterly or even like half yearly or yearly, if you don't have a way to see who are the people I worked with that I connected well with and give them an update, then there's no way for them to know that you're available, open, a fit, because they're experiencing opportunities where like, hey, the team's looking for blah, blah, blah. And they can't connect that with you if you're not even like top of mind or like recessed a little bit and engaging them. So you have to build the system and drive the process. A lot of us passively wait to be remembered and then we're forgotten. Okay. Number 4, prepare for each call. So you just quit your job, you sent your personalized goodbyes, and after a delay of a couple days to a couple weeks, depending on the person, it's too cute. They say like, hey, let's set up and connect. Meanwhile, you're working another job or something. You have to work across time zones to figure it out. Put the 5 to 30 minutes into it to actually prepare something. Like I had a slide deck and I was working on a video because my call to action was gonna be like, hey, I'm working on this video to talk about the business I'm building next. Would you be open to watching the video? It's a little long. So because of that, I knew it was a secondary ask. So I showed them, I was like, these are the main sections I'm editing. This is kind of the business I'm building towards. Give me thoughts on what I'm doing. Am I crazy? Is this going to be valuable? Like I got a lot of feedback, but it was because I was prepared as opposed to just showing up cold with these people, right? Like you have to, they're in your warm network, but you have to give them something to help them understand why you left and where you're going so that they can kind of see a quick picture of like your long-term vision. Because if they understand your trajectory, they might be able to redirect it into their world or hop onto yours, which is also fun. They might be like, hey, I'd love to join that organization. Then you get a referral bonus, right? Okay, so the next one. Exceed expectations. Like, there are people I chatted with that were like, I will happily join your company once you figure out how to run it. And then we ran into lead time issues in Japan, so we're in Chicago now. But at the time, like I had a lot of really strong engagement for what I was interested in doing to develop an app for fatherhood, to help fathers be more present. Timelines for that didn't make sense. So then I jumped into like high ticket brand management consulting and starting a community on Skool. Now I'm focused on just the community on Skool with one client for brand management. Like the business is always shifting, but because I had prepared so much and had such strong rapport, some of these members were part of my network for 3, 5, 10 years. They were immediately activated, which is really cool. So that comes from exceeding their expectations of like, I made it a valuable 30 minutes for them because of what I had pulled together and shared. All right, don't bite me. Number 6, provide parting value. This is different case by case. There were some individuals that were really interested in entrepreneurship. So parting value is like, hey, I'm making a newsletter. Let's see if he's okay. We'll see if he cries. He's in the middle of deciding. Nope. He's tired. So I got to get him down at some point. But providing parting value, like some people, like the newsletter was valuable to keep them engaged. Parting value looked like me putting out videos and them learning and gleaning from it. Others, it was providing them context like, hey, this is where my role ended. This is where the platform I was building is at. And if you want to take up the torch and keep it running, this is how you get started. Like giving people some momentum and a bigger picture that you weren't able to give before you close things out. That allows them to also feel a sense of connection in your transition. And the last thing, very last thing, which is really interesting, and most people don't think this way, ask for ask for consent to continue. Come on, buddy. The friendship. There we go. Set that down. Ask for consent to continue the friendship. This sounds very strange, but a lot of people, when people leave, they're going to invest all their time and effort in the people that backfill you and other people that come on and off the team because they only have so much capacity. They have other friends in real life, and then they have their families, right? So some people aren't going to want to meet with you once a month, once a quarter, once a year, or want your newsletter update or emails. Like, give people the space to lovingly unsubscribe. And it's super casual. Like, you don't have to literally say, like, do you consent to continuing this friendship? But it's more a matter of like, hey, would you be open to me reaching out once in a while? Now, if you want to use like really magic words, which I'm not a big fan of, you could be like, would you be opposed to me reaching out every other month or whatever? Because then that sets them up to say, no, I wouldn't be opposed. Oh, okay, great. Then we'll follow up. Like, that's super salesy. I don't like that. So, just ask like, hey, is it fine if I reach out once in a while? And it'd be cool to reconnect. And if they say yeah, then they've consented to maintaining the relationship. Now you do the work because you're the one that wants to maintain the relationship. Don't expect them to do it. Now, you do want to have mutual friendships as well, like your deeper inner circle. But we're talking about how do you, progress your wider network along, because it increases your chances of something cool happening on your behalf. So let's get down to my computer and I'll walk you through the CRM I built, and then we'll go from there. So hey friends, I tried to get through half of this, and then Akio got very uncomfy, so I gave him a bottle, and he just fell asleep in the corner, so I'll talk a little bit more gently. But I just want to take pause that I am in the most wonderful, terrifying, confusing, excellent season of my life. Like, I'm a full-time dad, full-time entrepreneur. I'm on the cusp of a job transition that's 6 months going from J&J into MedTech leadership, most likely at AbbVie, but there's some uncertainty in it. And it's just really cool to be able to put my son to sleep, get to connect with you through this content over both this video and the last 9 that I've pulled together for my course in Skool. And then my daughter's upstairs watching Gabby's Dollhouse because she's 3, and then I'm going to go make lunch and hang out with her. So there's so much in transition, and it's really neat because I'm still eager to see how everything comes together. And my encouragement to you from that, before we jump back into meat and content, is action, even if it's imperfect and if the pieces aren't matching together as you intend, imperfect action is still progress in your life. Things unfold in beautiful, unexpected ways. I don't know if I'm going to land a job in senior leadership at AbbVie or Baxter or others, if I'll settle for an engineering job, if entrepreneurship through Skool will take off and high ticket things will just start rolling in and I could do that full time and maintain this balance with my kids and work. But we're just taking steps every day forward to see where things land. So as we get into a CRM, which may be new for, I'm going to say all of you, unless you're a sales engineering background, which probably will eventually exist in my community, I want you to kind of lean in and view it as something that's unfolding. It wasn't perfect, but it's what I ran, and I closed clients with it, and it created revolving door opportunities. So leverage the pieces and make it your own. If you want to go and pay for Salesforce as you quit your job, it's probably way better. But this is free, which means no one has an excuse to do it another way. So I want to start with the why as I kind of lean in a little bit. Oops, I don't know what that is. So this was that thoughtful email we wrote to Kevin, the personalized goodbye. I had worked for Kevin for 5 years, and I sent it, and what I got was crickets. Like, there's no response. Kevin's very busy. He's running all of like advanced instrumentation for Otava. Really cool guy. So when I was progressing my business and finally had like a digital product and some updates, like a newsletter and things I'd kicked off over 90 days from the exit, I had a follow-up email, and I personalized it to him, and I replied all to that initial email as well, because I had a CRM that reminded me Kevin was part of your exiting network. So let him know what's going on. Just check back in again. So when I checked back in again, I got a very thoughtful Kevin response of like, dude, it's been busy, like super busy. He's got between 2 and 5 kids. I forgot how many he's landed at with foster care. I've been spending a few moments today knocking down my inbox. I've been passively following you on your journey, most likely on LinkedIn because I post consistently. Hope all's well. Would love to connect with you soon sometime. Let me know what works for you. I'm heading out of country, but you have my mobile number. Give me a call. Like, if I didn't have a CRM and the first goodbye email got bumped, I could have forgotten about him for a much longer time. And the reality is, like, Kevin can open doors for me in J&J if that's what I desire down the road. Right now, he's a director. By the time I'd be looking at opportunities back in J&J for like senior leadership, he would probably be in the senior director, VP kind of spectrum. Although it depends on how J&J progresses as an organization or where Kevin goes next. But CRM caught the relationship for me so I could manage it, so I can drive and re-engage because he's too busy to engage it on my behalf, right? So super cool. Kevin's great people, very thoughtful. So that's a little bit of the why. Now, what I want to do is show you my CRM that I used as an example for what we could do for Kevin for just like normal consulting, and then we'll get into a CRM that I built for J&J and why they're different. So I actually use a template process. So this is Trello. It's a wonderful system. You could Google Trello and make an account. That's easy. And you can create these different boards. So I have lots of different boards. I even have a board for my community on Skool called the Big Brain Club. So I could see like my backlog of tasks, what I need to do, what's in progress, what's done, so the community can see how things are progressing. So right now we're working on how to say goodbye 9, leads generation. We did the script intro, and we're recording the meat. I'll give myself credit. We're 33% done with that. And then I'm going to batch edit them all. So that's one of the cool things you can do with Trello. So if we go back to Family Frenzy social leads, this is me creating my own like flow chart, like you move people across boards. So I have a template with a name and a company and title. So if I run into somebody who seems like they could be a fit for what I can offer, I could quickly like write their name, what company they work for, their industry, the classic like what brings you here today, like what's the reason for the connection of services and people, and then their current state, their desired future state. You can find the gap between it as well as obstacles and pain points, so success metrics if you work together. And this then allows you to position an offer at an equitable price that provides maximum value to them, so they're more likely to say yes. And what you could do is track it through all these different conversations. And because I have a template, I can just create a card from the template. So we'll call this really quick Kevin J&J, even though this was more used for like startup folks. And then all of a sudden, ta-da, there's a card for Kevin. And I can move it to handshake, like I just met Kevin. Then I can move it into DMs, like I sent him a personalized message, like it'd be great to connect. If you want to do a 30-minute call, so then you do a call with them, then you build the relationship, then eventually provide an offer and close this individual, and then you execute the work. So like one of my existing clients today still is Erica. She's fantastic. She's the pancake princess. She does empirical bake-offs. Like I leveraged this template to fill out all these notes so that I could position the best offer to know For instance, like what success looked like for her was really important. Although apparently I just went off the rails and didn't use that part. But it helped me find her freedom number and position a really good offer with her. So I'm still doing edits for her, which is great. And then you would do an exit interview if we finished working with them to get more learning so we could close clients in the future at a better rate. So let me delete this because it'll give me anxiety to leave it there. All right, so that's a normal CRM, the way I would build it. Again, you could pay for Salesforce or something cool like that. If we go to the one I built for J&J, it's a little different. First of all, I had 3 different contexts that I cared about. I was leading an initiative focused on Japan called Program Pokeball, which had a lot of US team partners in it. So I went through my like reply all email list, and I grabbed everyone I had been engaging in innovation from Japan over the last 2.5 years because they were fresh, they knew the story, they were backing me, they were supporting me, and there's a whole bunch of people in here at one point. Now there's just a template there. I'll explain why, because they moved down the line. The Japan network was a lot of people I'd met in the Japan region. I have engaged some of these individuals at a different cadence for different reasons I won't get into. And then legacy network is like people that were with me from the start, like when I was a co-op and an intern and a new college hire, pre-Japan, people I still had some level of rapport with, like let them know what happened. And then all of these individuals, we started with a email. So I would send the email, and when that occurred, I'd move them into like confirmed for follow-up. So I'd start to move people over. And then once I had followed up, I sent like a Calendly link to connect. Some people used it, some people didn't. Like I still haven't met with Kevin, for instance. And I created tags. If we click on Kevin, I'll have to cover all the last names. But I had tags for like different tiers of depth in my legacy network, like 5+ years working together, 1+ year, loose network, useful later, farewell email sent. I also created tags for like if the waitlist was shared once I made a waitlist for my community. And then my next video, which was like a call to action that I actually didn't get out because we ran aground. But then from there, I would move them into like the meeting was confirmed. We did the meeting. So then I did the meeting follow-ups. Call to action was complete. So like I progressed a lot of people down the line when this opens up the door for revolving doors. So even now that I've ended up in Chicago, 7 months later, I actually launched the Skool's community. I redid it after it failed the first time. I relaunched it. I have 50 members in there just about. And I have this class will almost be complete once I finish this video edit. It'll be complete. So I'm going to go back through this entire list of people, as well as a lot of my social leads from my Japan network, because this is all Japan people, and just send personalized emails like, hey, it's been 6 months since I exited Johnson & Johnson to continue life in Japan, and here's what happened. Our revenue didn't exceed our burn rate. We relocated to Chicago to reset. I'm pursuing jobs in senior leadership in MedTech at AbbVie and Abbott. And in parallel to that, I'm still progressing a community that's focused on helping engineers, global leaders, and entrepreneurs find their way. So if that's of interest to you, here's a quick video that explains it. Here's a link to join. It's completely free. And I'm also really focusing on writing valuable newsletters for individuals in this context to just help them reflect a little deeper. Here's a link if you want to subscribe to my newsletter. Call to action complete. And then I'll basically create like new boards over here for that. So then I'll do like 6-month check-in sent. And then from there, some individuals might need some follow-ups. I'm like kind of roughing this right now. So this is like moving beyond maintaining engagement. So then from the 6-month check-in, a call to action might be like sales call setup. Like maybe some people want to move into the paid community. Sales call, secured. So like we can keep making boards to keep moving people along. And then maybe there's like a 12-month check-in. And if someone's like, hey, stop sending me these emails, super easy. Just click on their name and delete it. But then keep moving others down the line, because some people just need you to check in because the season in their life needs to shift where they're like, oh, shoot, I do need to learn how to say goodbye. I remember you were working on this. How do I join the community? Oh, it's still free. Amazing. And they're in because they got the 12-month check-in. People don't do this when they move companies. And just because you might be moving into another company full-time and not doing entrepreneurship, if you could still maintain relationships with a check-in of like, these are the new skills I've learned, this is what I've been working on, this is how I think I could provide value, they might be like, oh my gosh, we need you. Can you come and join our team? And it opens up a door that way. So, depending on your personal brand and what opportunities you're looking for, this tool can take you really far. So, to take it a little deeper, pre-praxis, because we still have our 3 questions we'll end with, let's just build one from scratch really fast, unless my daughter Emiko runs down here. So if you make an account, you have boards, just click here. We're going to call this strategic strategic exit leads generation. And I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. First it says 1 board. I'm giving you my last board, friends. You can get 10 on the free trial. There's some I have to delete. Create it. Should be empty. Now, the first thing I do, because I need a better vibe than this mountain, is if you click right here, you should be able to change the background, and then I could put my custom thing, but you could also just search through like folders. So let's look for fire. I don't know, maybe fire is a good idea. Yeah. Let's get this thing burning. I don't know why. It just made sense to me. Cool. So we got a hot board over here. So what we could do is let's pretend that you work in automotive and you've been there for 10 years and you're looking for a change. So you just jumped into MedTech. I referred you into J&J through my network. Like we had some connections and we got it done. Let's say that's super cool and that happened. So we could start by breaking it into maybe you have like 2 major like arcs in your career. Like first you have design, engineering, network, and then maybe you moved into manufacturing, so like production. So we'll say like production, engineering, network. And then maybe to keep it a little bit more segmented, maybe there's a lot of like senior leadership that you have good rapport with that you want to take along with you. So we'll start with that. You have 3 different buckets. What I suggest doing is the first card you add, let's make it a template. So let's call this design engineering template. And then I'm just going to call this name actually. That way you can name template. So that way you could rename it. So you can click these dots. I think if you hit Control 8, it's a hotkey. Let's see, I've done this 100 times. Nope. No, Alt 8. Nope. Oh, that looks weird. Why does it look so weird? Control Shift 8. Oh my God. That's a weird one. Control Shift 8. Control Shift 8. That. Control Shift 8. What the heck? I don't know what I did. Let's go back. We gave an anxiety. Control Shift 8. So maybe the first thing you want to note is like prior working history. Now you should know all this. So you might not need these categories as much as like when I was making a CRM for new people. But then if you consider everyone as a lead though, towards an opportunity, towards a revolving door, or towards a service you want to offer if you move into consulting and manufacturing, you might still want to capture like their current state. Like you wanted to check in and figure out like where are they in the company? What do they care about? Where do they want to go? Maybe that's a good way to approach it. Like current state, which we'll call maybe like this is from my sales as storytelling training, like origin story, like where are they at? And then Control Shift 8, and then desired future state. And then also a good time when you check in to just grab a couple like obstacles, pain points. And then we could say like what success looks like if they partner with you. So let's do that because maybe let's assume that they become a client. Looks like, and then, give yourself some help and you could throw in some general notes. I could have done bullets that nested. I don't know why I did it that way. It's important. This is a little finicky. You have to click save. If you don't save it, If you go back, it'll remember it, but it won't show you immediately. Name. Now, there's a couple things you can embed in this template that are fun. If you wanted to put a checklist, this is probably a cleaner way to do it than what I did in some capacity. But because you could do a checklist like email sent, email followed up on, call set up, like click, 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 click. The reason I don't do this, I actually save the checklist for if I have a call with them and there's a couple items necessary. Like, hey, could you help like tell me everything you know about finance and like put it all together? And there's like 5 like follow-ups. I put the checklist under the card for that. The reason I don't do that is I want to make those horizontal swim lanes to kind of move the card through. Because it helps me see like where is everyone and how do I kind of push the line forward gradually. Labels are really helpful. So we might make, this is another stupid thing about this. So the labels will always be in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. The reason I say it is if you're a heavy labeler like I am, this is a part of the system that I don't like. Like sometimes I might want something purple to be at the top, but it'll end up at the bottom because I have something that's green. So you can't make the label colors perfectly match what they're labeling if you want your labels to also read in a certain order every time you do it. So that's a little pro tip for Trello if Trello wants to get better. But we'll just call this one like tier 1, 5+ years that you've known them. Save that, and then we can make another one for tier 2, 2 to 5 years. Save that, and then tier 3 is going to be 0 to 3 years. So those could be some of the initial labels. What else would we put on there? I did things like my Trello and follow-ups I embedded into it once I had a standard thing I wanted to send out like a newsletter. But for now, we'll leave them blank just for proof of example. All right, so let's turn these off because we don't know what this person is. It's the template. So when you put the labels in the template, though, any card will have those labels. And actually, any card on this board will have access to every label you make. So you can have different labels for certain cards. So we have these 3 sections, which is great. We have a template, which we can use in any of these. So let's just use it one time to see. Oh, it's not a template yet. Just because you write template doesn't make it a template. You have to go and under actions, make it a template. And now the magic has been done. So now this card is a template. So if we click on it, create card from template. Who's one of your favorite people to work with? How about Kumiko? Kumiko. And maybe you can give her a title. Graphic design. Oh, I spelled that terribly wrong. I spelled that just like a child. Such a great card. All right, so Kumiko, we could add all this working history, but we'll use her as an example. Let's give her at least a tag so it feels like it's labeled well. 2 to 5 years. Good people. You met Kumiko when you were working on designing a new rear view headlight. So what I would start before you exit is recognizing you have limited time. Okay, depending on your lead times, you're not going to take everyone with you, because if you do that, then you have to do a generalized goodbye, and that's meaningless. And you don't want to maintain everyone, but you do want to take people at different levels of proximity or closeness to you over a period of time. So what this is a great exercise with, like if we went back to my board, if I go to, this is a good example. Like I'd click on somebody and say that they're a downstream player. So that means this is a really good person to have in my network later. So I'm not going to move them to relationship building and closing because I have these people that I need to focus on to then start executing the work. They're going to stay here. So in the same way, when you go and brain dump everyone you've worked with across production engineering, senior leaders, design engineering, they don't all need a personal goodbye. But if they don't get one while you're within the company, then it's stranger coming from an external email. So this helps you kind of prune and filter and then figure out, what you can actually do. Let's make a couple more for this example. So we have Kumiko. We have Harold is one of my favorite names. Harold from shipping. I don't know. You're really good friends with Harold from shipping. And then you've known Harold for basically your whole career. You have lunch together every day. And then you have Susanna. That sounds fun and spelled wrong. And she's in marketing. She's great, but you just met her, right? So like you don't have a lot of rapport with her yet. Whoops. All right. So we have these three people. As you have 10 people, 20 people, 40 people on these lists before you've done any more work, it's important to organize them. Harold, we really want to take with us. Kumiko is actually still a pretty strong network person. Susanna's new. You can connect on LinkedIn. And what this means is if you have limited time and you still want to engage them all with a farewell email that has the personal email connected with your work email so that they can just reply all and you can follow up with them, you can do more shallow, less personalized responses for folks on the bottom, but at least it still has their name and it's just to them. But then for these individuals, you could really embellish it and really leave a mark right off the bat. So you can kind of put your effort across your network where it needs to be by first force ranking them all and stacking them vertically. And that's why I love this tool. You could just move stuff around. So it helps you like clarify your brain. So we have these three boards of these three buckets of people. Let's say Harold was a senior leader now. Let's start him over here. So let's think about how we move people through it. So what are the main steps you do in a strategic exit? So the first one is going to be personalized exit email. I'll say with call to action. Call to action. So you send everyone an email from your work email with your personal email and give them the call to action. Hey, if you'd like to connect or keep in touch, please reply all. Like give them a simple call to action. The next one is like 30-minute call coordinate scheduled. So you got a confirmation from them of like, hey, I really want time with you. So you set something up. And then from there, you can say like your call complete. So what I called this, I think on the other one was call follow-ups complete. So they might have a couple lingering items or things you have to think about, like actually get back to them is important versus ghosting them. And if you don't write it down, you won't do it. Call follow-ups complete. And then from there you have like relationship nurturing, like just kind of light touch engagement. So you know they're in this bracket versus some people are still out here. So then you might have another board, which is like 6-month check-in. So then you're going to do a 6-month check-in on what you've learned, where you're working, how things are going. That's an opportunity to move these cards up to here. And then you might have another section of like 30-minute call setup. I like to just keep moving things to the right. Eventually this can explode out. Then you have your follow-ups. Do you see what I'm doing here? Then you have 1 year. Check-in. Now it's different if you're moving into consulting. There's a different flow you want to bring people into, or you might take them off the board. You could literally, I could take this card. We can take Harold, and I can move him to a different board. So I can put him on my family social leads, and I can put him under like closing. Like actually, there's something I could work on with Harold right now. Boom, I can move him there. I could put him to the top of the list. So you can move cards from this CRM to another board if that's helpful for how you manage your business. Okay, let's get into Praxis. I mean, this is like the first half of Praxis. Let me grab my Trello thing and we'll, or the tablet. Ooh, it's a long call. How are we doing on this? Is this helpful? Ooh, 25 minutes? Just 25 minutes on the meat. Let me change tabs. Remarkable. My screen share is broken. Let me do that again. Let me turn this back on. Let me click this magic button. Click this button. I was going to say, friends, this is the last time we're hanging out together, but it's not. We still have to work through how to land a job, and whatever that turns into. Connect the app. Accept the connection. Back. Make it perfect. My setup's ridiculous. All right. And scribble, scribble. There we go. So, 3 questions to leave you with, and then I'm going to go make my daughter lunch. First of all, this one's long. They're all long. You know me. All right. This, they're a little sarcastic too. This seems like a lot of work during a big transition. Because if you've ever moved jobs, it's a lot. Like your time blows up. So, comma, why do you think it's worth doing? And this is for you to answer, because if you don't think it's worth doing, don't do it. Just don't expect different results. Expect that you send the, hey everyone, this is my last day. It's been so great meeting with you. I've learned so much. Follow me on LinkedIn. Happy to stay connected. And don't expect anyone to connect with you. And maybe you get lucky. Like that's the output, is like maybe it works out just fine. But if you don't want that outcome, why do you think this process could help, or an augmentation of this process? Why is this worth doing amidst such a challenging season? For me, I do think one of the critical things is getting the personal email and the connected with the work email, so your emails don't bounce. And you're not tied to just LinkedIn purely, because some people aren't on LinkedIn, other people's are. Whereas if you're connected into their work emails, it's a little bit more engaging. People are on that every day for the most part. Okay, next one. There's a timing thing there. Based on the effort, never promised you easy, required, what activities should you proactively start doing now, prior to your exit? Because when you exit, when you turn in your 2 weeks notice, when that day comes, it's going to be too late. Kind of. I mean, I got it done, but I had a lot of slush time that you probably won't have, because I was also moving, and then the job interviews didn't work out for business dev, which we've talked about. You won't have a lot of time to do this well if you wait till the moment, or you wait till you're laid off. Although with layoffs, you normally have, I think, an 8-week runoff. It depends on how it works. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, but they normally give you 3 to 6 months severance depending on the industry. So you have the cash flow. I don't think you have the email access. Some folks, like one of my colleagues, he got laid off. They took his laptop immediately. So in that case, there's nothing he could do, actually, unless you had already migrated the emails. Like I migrated my work emails to Trello proactively before I submitted my resignation. So I had already identified the people. I just had to then do the personalized email. So that's something to think about in these transitions, is like, when do you lose access? Because it was really easy. I went into Outlook even, and I would just type A and see what auto names filled up, like the ones I was engaging most, B, C, D. Like I literally let Outlook tell me, like, what is my working network here? Oh yeah, I forgot about Isuki or something like that. So if it's a lot of effort and it's required, like, what do you need to start doing right now? Build the CRM would be the first thing I would suggest, because it'll allow you to lay it out and see it and then prioritize. Or even have like little quick check-ins with top tier people in person while you still have those 2 weeks. Like, hey, I'd love to connect with you before I exit. There's some stuff on my mind. A lot I think I could help you with. Here's where I'm going next. Like, you can do it before you leave as well, and have a little bit of blurry crossover. So that's kind of cool. Grab lunch with people, all that kind of jazz. All right, last part. Are you genuinely open to opportunities that may come from the revolving door? I want to unpack this with you. I should put the quote on the outside of the Question mark. My second grade grammar teacher's just rolling over. I was gonna say in her grave. I hope she's still alive. She wasn't that old when she taught me. Oh, now it's been 40, 30 years? Not that long. Anyway, sorry, I ramble. So the reason I want to bring this up is there's a huge arc in your journey deciding that moving towards something new is necessary. Some of you may have wanted to be lifers in your current place of employment, and we found a way to break those golden handcuffs and help you recognize the pot you're in and give you those words so you can move forward. Some of you have done incredibly deep processing through the resignation letter and really put words to the hurts and the pain you've navigated in a given establishment and found that deep sense of intrinsic value that you could do better elsewhere. The reason I say this is if an opportunity comes at you to return, you don't want it to feel like a rebound relationship. You would want to make sure you genuinely are at peace that you left on certain terms and you were able to come back on better terms. For me, I don't know when that threshold is for J&J. Like I have wounds, but I recognize an indifferent organization did that. And if I had the opportunity to be VP of R&D and solve really huge, challenging problems with an amazing group of people and develop them and advance global healing and leverage the might and scale and cash of J&J to do life, like world-changing things, man, I'd give it a hard look. I'd really think about it. I even really thought about it with the APAC opportunity, and that just wasn't a fit initially. So it's something you have to kind of navigate. I've seen so many of my colleagues from J&J leave and bounce back, and they bounce back better, and they're doing great. And some of them were laid off by J&J, and they just found a way to bounce back in because the person that laid them off is different than the person that provided them a new opportunity. So I share this because when you build this ecosystem, you should be somewhat prepared on if you have an openness to return, or if you have certain terms with which you come back, or you need to return but into a different group with a fresh start, right? Like if I came back to J&J, I wouldn't necessarily want to go back to Cincinnati. I'd want to go out to the Bay, or I guess New Jersey, although I have wounds in that space as well because that was what was offered to me when I stayed in Japan. So that seems kind of silly. So anyway, friends, I hope this journey has opened up your horizons and perspectives to saying goodbye and to have, again, a sense of deep dignity in the transition, and that this just provides you these like extra tools and tips to maintain relationships with people. I'm very strong in networking and connecting to solve. And I don't know, I feel like this is like, I was gonna say God mode. I wouldn't put myself that high. This is like pro mode stuff. People don't do this. And if you do, I think your 2 to 5 year horizon is incredible after you leave, because you're either going to get an offer to go back and feel good about it, or you're going to bring someone with you into whatever your next looks like, which is also really cool. And if, none of that, you're going to be sending updates every 6 months to folks that are going to be encouraging them that, hey, there's something beyond this place. If the workplace is truly atrophying and dying, and there are businesses like that. So I hope that this has been an honest, reflective, challenging journey for you. It has been a 6-month journey for me to process everything I've navigated through, synthesize everything I've learned, and give it to you authentically and honestly. And I trust that there's so much farther we can go. I'm excited for the next series of how to land a job. I've already scripted 9 modules. I have to record it. I'm in the process of landing a job. So part of it is I need the proof. So I'm curious where I'll land. And there's a little bit of like fear of like, will I get the 30% pay increase living where I want, loving what I do? That's what I promise people. Can I do it myself? So like there's always a little bit of butterflies before you go out and get something. But I'm hoping that I get some interviews this week and the coming weeks, and find a way to integrate entrepreneurship and providing for my family through industry and serving globally. So if you're here for it, hang out with us on Skool. The community's free, and I'll see you on the next one. Keep changing the world.